Now, while you won't find yourself doing this all too often, occasionally you create groups in a way that was not really the way you intended to, and you might find yourself needing to convert a group from one type to another, or from one scope to another. Well, thankfully, in later versions of the operating system, actually very later versions of the operating system, you have the ability to convert certain types of groups into other certain types of groups. But, and this is a caveat, other types you can't. Let's take a look at those you can as opposed to those you can't. For our first possibility, it is possible to take domain local groups and global groups and convert them into universal groups. It is similarly possible to take a universal group and convert it into a domain local or a global group. However, it is not possible to take a domain local group and convert it to a global, or to take a global and convert it to a domain local. So there are a couple things you can do and a couple of things you can't do when it comes to converting these groups from one type to another. Now, I want to show you just here back in our Active Directory Users and Computers console, just the fact that when I create a group, so back up here under Company Users, here's our Extremely Untrusted Users group. I could down here just check the box to switch between global and universal, or security to distribution. Doing so would change the structure of the group and the functionality of the group. Switching from global to universal would then populate all this information into my global catalog servers and the membership into my global catalog servers. Over here, changing from security to distribution would facilitate this being an email group as opposed to a security group. Now, there are a couple of ways here in PowerShell, because we got to talk about all the PowerShell here. There are a couple of ways in which you can use PowerShell to go about doing this conversion as well. Let's say, for example, that I'm going about happily creating new groups here using Windows PowerShell. So my universal distribution group. There's a new group that I created. And the group scope for this, I'm going to create it as a global group. Whoops, by accident. Gosh, wait a minute, I just created that group. And now if I take a look down here under users and then refresh things, I've created my universal distribution group as a global security group. Let's go back here to PowerShell and then fix the problem that we just created. Let me, instead of new AD group, let me instead get the AD group that I just created. So get AD group. If we take a look at that, well, there's the information about the group, and I can see here that the scope is set to global and the category is set to security. Let's make some changes. Let me do set AD group, and then I'm going to set the group scope, there's my group scope, over to universal. Okay, that should fix that. And then I'll set my group category from a security group here to a distribution group, which I would do by entering a 0 in here to set it over to a distribution group. Once I'm done with that, let's go back up here to get the group then. So get AD group. As you can see now, we have a universal distribution group, exactly the one that we were looking for when we initially created the group the first time. And back over here, in fact, yep, there's the group scope and there's the group type now as a universal distribution group.